more on the growing problem of plastic pollution, let's go now to Kate O'Neill. She's a professor at the University of California at Berkeley, where she teaches global environment governance. Great to have you on the program today. Now, the Saudis and their petroleum-producing allies have pushed back against measures that would address plastic pollution. Why?
Oh, well, I think the reasons are very clearly economic, that these nations see very much that they might be losing out in terms of petrochemicals and plastic production at a time when it looks like fossil fuel production might be peaking as well, with growing concerns over climate change.
And the Saudi delegates had argued in their submissions to the negotiators that tackling supply, quote, penalises industries without addressing the actual issue of plastic pollution. What do they mean by that? What is the actual issue that they say is?
Yeah, this is one of the points of contention in this whole negotiation. And what they mean by plastic pollution is mismanaged plastic, mismanaged discarded plastic. So that's shifting the focus of the debate away from how much plastic we are producing and using to, well, people aren't getting rid of it in the right way. We just need more recycling or other forms of getting rid of plastic waste, and that's going to solve the problem. While I think that's clearly a very, very difficult target.
As you mentioned earlier, critics are arguing that the Saudis clearly have a strategy to prevent global progress on anything that would threaten their capacity to continue extracting fossil fuels. Now, with an incoming oil-friendly Trump government, how are environmental bodies, global policy changes going to grapple with this strong resistance to step away or to stick with fossil fuels in countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the Western world?
It's going to be a hard push. I think we're going to be facing problems on a lot of different fronts when it comes to addressing both plastic pollution and climate change. I do feel like there is a pretty central coalition of states such as the European Union and other kinds of developing countries. Brazil is very much in favor of a plastics treaty, that we might be able to push this through. But I think we're going to have to be moving forward without the active participation of the United States, and I think that's going to make it that much harder to get the oil-producing countries, the OPEC countries, on board.
The coalition has been led by developing nations like Rwanda, which in 2008 became one of the first countries in the world to ban single-use plastic bags and bottles. What does this say about fossil fuel-producing nations, even like Canada and Norway? If it's developing nations that are attempting to create change in their own countries, why can't, the developed world do more?
Right. Well, I think parts of the developed world are trying to do more. I do think there's a lot of support for developing countries. I think it's really important, though, that they are at the forefront, and at least in highlighting this problem and the impacts on both the livelihoods and the health of the people who work in waste, as well as the impacts on the environment. I'm hoping that this is a problem that a lot of countries can continue to tackle within their borders. Or even, you look in the United States, you look at states like California, and they're really at the forefront of developing circular economy, plastic reduction policies, just within the borders of that U.S. state. So I do think there are many ways that are going to be possible moving forward.
While you've been speaking, we've been looking at some pretty horrific footage of many communities in the developing world literally living amidst plastic waste. Would you say that this is one of the top agendas for environmentalists moving forward? Yeah,
I actually would. That with climate change, I do feel like plastics is something that we have we have a visceral reaction to, seeing those pictures and seeing the damage that they cause. I do think that's something that people can move forward with and support in their own lives. You can contrast it with climate change, which is a lot harder and moving a lot faster. And I feel like people think, okay, this is something we can do. This is something we can move forward on. Unfortunately, it's turned out to be more complicated and more political opposition than we thought.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Kate O'Neill, really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.